What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. How are we all doing today?
Hey, Jacob, happy Friday. We are ready with the questions. It's been quite the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for taking some time out of your Friday to join in here. Appreciate it. Know we have a good turnout. We were able to get the waiting room pushed back a bit, so collectors will be able to both participate in office hours and then join the trivia game in the queue. You can also multitask. There might be some overlap. How are you doing today, Candy?
I am doing well. I've just posted the agenda for today in the office hours chat so that way we can see the topics we'll be covering. We have many questions that we've been collecting kind of throughout the week as well as today, and was able to break them down into categories of frequently asked questions that we need answers for. Perfect. So we have questions. We have the agenda. Are you ready to start answering, Jacob? It's going to be quite the office hours today.
Yeah, I'm very ready. Just going to put out a tweet right now to make sure that we get more people coming through if it's helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And we will have it recorded and put on YouTube per usual. So that way, anybody who's not able to attend or has to step away for part of it will be able to catch up and get the full details later on.
Perfect. Candy, if you are ready, I'm ready for questions, ready to start taking them on. I know that the community has a lot they're curious about this week.
All right. So we're going to start with the pack drops section today, which I think has kind of been one of those hot button topics for the week. So to get right in, I'll ask one of the hardest questions first, Jacob, and then we can progress from there. And so the first question actually has a little bit of context that I need to preface it with before we get to the questions. The context being, for the first time in months, we saw a lot of users who bought a rare pack, the Throwdowns, and they got 6 moments that they could have theoretically purchased on the marketplace after the drop for the same or a little bit less in terms of price point. And as a contrast to that, the last premium pack, or the MGLE drop, we had 17,000 rare moments at $90 a pack. But Throwdowns came out 3 weeks later, and we had $150 per pack with 76,000 rare moments. So the price point was higher, and also the quantity was higher. So given that context, we have some questions wondering, reflecting on the drop, is Dapper happy with how it turned out with the quantity and the pricing decisions? Is this an expectation for, moving forward? Is this what we should expect?
Yeah, so I think on a holistic level, we could break it down into two different components, right? As far the technical of how the drop performed, how the queue went smoothly. Granted there was a pushback. We are satisfied with how the drop performed. As far as the pricing, the edition sizes, the number of moments in the set, all of those things, I think we are looking at very intently for next time around, and going to learn from kind of how this week went. I don't think anyone in the team is patting themselves on the back about it. I think that there were maybe 3 or 4 different levers that could have been pulled. And if any one of those 3 or 4 levers were pulled, we probably would have had a different result, a different sentiment in the community. And more specifically, those levers include having less moments in the set, so fewer throwdowns, lowering the edition size of the throwdowns that were kind of involved, so not 1,800, but lowering it to a scarcer edition size. Having fewer packs, we had never had 76,000 rare packs in a drop before. And what we were trying to do was accommodate to a lot of collectors that had noted that they never get lucky in rare drops and they've never been able to get a rare pack before. So we wanted to do our biggest rare set to date. And we were trying a lot of things, probably 4 or 5 new things at once with it. And, we're trying to move quickly. And I think as a result of moving quickly, we didn't hit the nail on the head for this time around. But rest assured, we will be taking the data, we will be taking learnings from it and applying it to upcoming drops where we can. Now, I think one of the bigger learnings here is that our community, while we as a collectible celebrate the greatest moments in NBA history, the greatest plays, the greatest highlights, we are increasingly aware that our collectors value the player before the highlight at times. So for a rare drop like the one we saw this week, there were a lot of players that aren't quote unquote star players that were involved. And we'll be evaluating what that could look like long term, because I think that precipitated some of the frustration from the community on it. As for kind of the general sentiment around our team, I think what we saw was a stark contrast among newer collectors who got in on the drop, undercutting each other and kind of a race to the bottom, trying to get off of the moments they had just acquired in the pack. Meanwhile, our kind of OG collectors had a very different kind of reaction to the throwdowns, and actually were trying to buy up moments after the fact as the undercutting was ensuing. So I think what happened was a variety of things. We next time around we'll have a more thorough discussion about edition size, price point, number of moments in the set to ensure that we can restore the community's trust around those things. But we wanted to celebrate the best throwdowns of the season, and there were a lot of great dunks this season. So, we were trying to probably tackle too many things at once, but I think it's a great learning opportunity for our team. And rest assured, we have heard the community sentiment, and we're looking at the data very intently to ensure that we improve from these learnings.
All right. So with that said, then, do we have any corollary insight about price points for different tiers of drops? Because, looking at our collection, there are common moments, and then there are common set moments. There are, the various rares that are both MGLE and then, set rares. There's legendary packs. Do we know, given kind of the learnings of today and historically, if we're going to be expecting increases, with pricing, or, how flexible are we going to be on adjustments as we move forward with all of the packs?
I think we'll be flexible, but one thing I want to emphasize is we don't want to be too overreactionary. I think we tried a lot of things with this rare drop. Not all of them hit, but we have had very successful rare drops, legendary drops, and common drops recently. So some upcoming drops you all know are on the radar already include part 2 of Hustle and Show. That will have the same price point as the part 1. Premium packs will have the same price point as earlier premium packs from this series. And Holo Icon 3 will have the same price point as Holo Icons 1 and 2 from the series. So I think when we're kind of looking at price points, certainly we're taking into account kind of the community sentiment around throwdowns. I don't think we will be looking to, I don't think we look at it as something we need to reimburse collectors who purchased those packs because, again, if we're looking at the data, the kind of OG collectors are the ones that are looking at it as an opportunity, and the newer collectors are undercutting each other. So that is a market dynamic, and I think we as a team can do a better job going forward of looking at all the levers we have to pull to ensure that These packs remain super scarce and exciting to get in on. But trying to straddle that line is difficult, right? Because when we have drops with rare packs and there are only 30,000 rare packs, for example, the overwhelming negative sentiment in the community is it's impossible to ever get a rare pack. So we were trying to compensate in that way toward making rare packs more available. So if you were eligible for this drop, you had a greater than 50% chance of getting in on a rare pack, which was the first time we'd ever been able to do that in Series 2. So that's where the mindset was. And again, we'll take learnings from it and improve going forward.
All right. And so given all of the context that we've discussed so far, there was a pretty common question that I was seeing in chat throughout the week, wondering if Top Shot is worried about future rare and legendary pack drops maybe not selling out, and what would happen in that instance.
Yeah, we'll look into it. I don't think that we're quite ready to say we have a strong, like, I know that a lot of the OG collectors in our community want packs to have kind of a consistent neutral expected value. I think a lot of other collectors want to see a positive expected value. I don't think anyone wants to see a negative expected value. But for us, we're looking through a lot of different options. But generally speaking, we do want collectors that get in on rare packs and legendary packs to be excited about being able to get that. So obviously price point has a role there, and we'll look into it. I again wouldn't suggest that we are really trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to maybe rein in some of the experimentation we did with Throwdowns. And just kind of riffing off of, I'm looking in the office hours chat, by distinguishing OG collectors, we were looking explicitly at data of collectors who started their accounts in or before January to collectors that started afterward. So it's not a perfect kind of binary, but there was a very stark difference in those two types of cohorts.
And in reality, I think it's important to note that the difference in the cohorts is that people who, you've referenced OG collectors, have seen the same cycle play out in Top Shot in the marketplace already at least a couple times. I say that because before I joined the team, I've been in Top Shot since the very first day of the closed beta, and this type of cycle has happened before. So when you've seen it and you've seen it come back, it doesn't feel as dire as perhaps, the first time around. So I think that definitely does have some impact on the different types of player behaviors as we're looking at the community as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a related note, though, to things not selling out, perhaps, if that is, the case, people, are really excited about things like Rebound Packs as well. And they were originally described as being for those collectors who qualify for the queue but aren't able to secure the premium pack. So, are missing the main pack, whatever's on sale. But we've also been seeing a lot of people who have kind of been skipping that main pack and waiting for the rebound to be available. So that's the primary goal. Is something that the Top Shot team is looking at adjusting in the future?
We're looking into everything, and we are open to adjusting. I think a top priority for us as a team is to ensure that collectors are going to be able to get packs. New collectors are going to be able to get packs fairly early in their collector journey. I think that's a win for everyone. It's a win for new collectors who are going to be able to get the packs. It's a win for the community because it will help with retention and growth. And overall, I think just opening packs is fun, whether you're expecting a positive return on your investment or if it's a potentially neutral or negative return on your investment. I think a lot of collectors will continuously open packs because they enjoy the collecting nature of it. When it comes to Rebound Packs, like we are actively looking into different options around what would it look like if the reservation packs on a weekly cadence are reserved exclusively for collectors that have bought fewer than 2 packs to date. We don't have any updates to share on that quite yet, but we are kind of monitoring it. We do understand the community sentiment around there being too many packs available, and we'll do our best to ensure going forward that we're kind of looking on all of these fronts.
All right. So given, those market mechanics and kind of some of the different discussions that we've had so far about, the implementation of Throwdowns, there is another question about Throwdowns that the community has surfaced, noting that there are 51 players in the Throwdown set. And so far, we have 45 that were released in packs with 9 players per challenge. So 5 challenge rewards, which mathematically leaves 1 extra player. Can you confirm or deny if there's going to be a master challenge for the Throwdown set? And if not, what's up with that math?
Yeah, to my knowledge, there is not going to be a master challenge around Throwdowns. I will update the community as soon as possible if I hear otherwise, and that will be, as soon as today. If I'm wrong there, I'll make sure to correct that as soon as possible. But I have not heard anything around that. Regarding the 51st moment, we will kind of figure out an interesting way to distribute that. And yeah, just stay tuned. I don't have a specific, but what I can say with confidence is there are going to soon be a variety of different kind of incentive structures. So, I think we have a precedent of this to a degree last year with the Matisse Thybulle rookie debut moment, which was a prize for a different sets master challenge. And of course, the reward being a Thybulle rookie debut for a Got Game Master Challenge was kind of unprecedented at its time. So it's possible that the 51st Throwdown might be for a different sets challenge long term.
All right. Do we have, kind of shifting gears a little bit, any update on upcoming Holo or Legendary pack timelines might be coming out?
Yeah, I think this is a good example of us listening to the community and trying to be sensitive to how our collectors are feeling. So we initially did have the plan to release Holo Icon next week. We are going to push that back by at least a week as we kind of are conscientious to sentiment. Next week, there will be a drop, and it will be, I would say next week with 90% confidence, 80% confidence, we'll have a drop. And it will be part 2 of Hustle and Show.
All right. And then I think that sums up our pack drop questions. So let's move on to sets and moments, because we had some pretty interesting ones there as well this week. First off, do we have any plans to introduce limits on the number of players included in each set? So kind of similar how we have edition sizes for each tier. As the season goes on, more and more players get added. Is this something that we have a cap on, or should the community expect this number to keep rising?
I think for Series 2, you can safely anticipate if there are moments in the playoffs from players, we will turn those into moments on Top Shot. So I think it's really hard for us to do mid-series to start implementing. It's hard for us mid-series to start implementing kind of caps, because if we were to say theoretically there will only be 1 more or 2 more LeBron James moments, and then he ends up having 4 epic moments in the playoffs, we don't want to hamstring ourselves. What I think we will do in Series 3 or for next season with certainty is implementing kind of ballpark ranges across tier to give collectors a really good understanding of kind of how many moments there might be from a certain player. And that's not to say explicitly there will be 5 from player X and 6 from player Y, but just give kind of a range of what you can expect an upper bound would look like to help inform your decision making in the marketplace.
All right, so similar to that, same question then. Would we consider implementing limits on the number of mints for each player during a season? Because right now, there are some pretty big discrepancies. We've got, players like Giannis who has over 30 moments, and then KD who only has 5. But say we're, minting some more rewards for players that already have a lot. So is that something we're also looking at balancing, or, what's the distribution goal there?
Yeah, I think that's frankly, somewhat of a cherry-picked example. Giannis, we did MVP moves last season. We decided that was a good opportunity for us to celebrate Giannis's rookie season and tie it to run it back. Kevin Durant, of course, didn't play last season, so very hard to make moments of his. We are looking at the number of moments we're getting for each player, but I think we're really looking at, as I just mentioned, kind of ballpark ranges for next season to give collectors a little bit more confidence in their collecting habits. For this season, you should safely anticipate that if you are collecting moments from a player whose team might go far in the playoffs, there will be more moments from that player in the playoffs, absolutely. And the community should anticipate that happening. And then if there are players whose teams are eliminated from the playoffs, obviously there won't be moments of theirs from playoff action. So it might be a little bit more certainty around collecting. Now, that's not to say that we can't include more moments from them from the regular season in the base set, but just keep all of that in mind as you're collecting.
Right. And given that, we have discussed earlier during the pack drops the different types of moments that there are. So there's common, but then there's like the special set common. Has Top Shot considered adding another tier, like uncommon? So kind of grouping those in between, so Cool Cats or Seeing Stars, Hustle and Show, those would be their own type of tier instead of just common?
No, Hustle and Show is a common set. There have been some thoughts around kind of what a dynamic demand set could look like between common and rare. But we'll be doing some evaluating of the justification for that. And I think what will be a really interesting kind of data point for us to reference there is how many collectors fulfill the showcase quest this week. Because there's a very real chance, and I want to brace the community for this, that the Ben Simmons Cool Cats moment has a higher edition size than some common moments, right? I think it's common base set moments, I should say. It's all dependent on how many collectors in our community complete that quest. We don't have a great sense of how many collectors will do that, but we do know that it's a fairly low bar to entry to get in on it.
All right, so another one of a similar vein, kind of trying to break up how rares are. Somebody had suggested keeping like the lesser known players at a smaller edition size, so maybe out of $4.99, and then using mostly established players for those larger edition rare sets. Is that something that we would consider at any point, finding ways to balance the rarity and desirability of moments?
I would say we'll consider it. I think more likely than not, we'll just, the bigger takeaway for me from Throwdowns is for rare sets, maybe we just have less players included. Again, we're always, when we're thinking about thematic sets, we're thinking of like NBA canon. So when we're thinking of what were the most epic throwdowns of the 2020-21 season, I feel pretty good about the moments that got into the set. With that being said, I think we had too many moments in the set. And I think our team is looking at that. And again, the reason we had more moments in this set than any other rare set to date was very much with the intention of, can we get more rare packs out to the community? And trying to toe that line is very difficult. As I mentioned before, the most common sentiment we get when there are only 30,000 packs is that this is BS. I've grinded my way to be eligible for this drop, and now I have a 10% chance of getting in or whatever. That's not a super great satisfying answer. But then we see the flip side in this case, where we make it more accessible. It leads to collectors feeling like they got ripped off because maybe we overestimated what the demand for these moments are. And again, specifically referring more to the role players and non-star player throwdowns moments in the set.
All right. So let's move on to the marketplace and pricing category, because I think that does tie in a little bit with both the sets moments and the pack drops that we've discussed so far. And the very common community concern, as we've discussed, not just today, but kind of over the last couple months, is that the people who have joined more recently, from like February onward, have been watching some of those third-party sites and seeing the account valuations fluctuate and go down. And this, in turn, has actually caused some people to leave Top Shot entirely. Do we have anything as the Top Shot team that we can provide, in terms of a roadmap to prevent more collectors from feeling this way, or ways to improve, kind of the overall economic situation as we're moving forward?
No, I think that to kind of tackle those questions in stages, we do share updates, like as we've discussed here. What our next common drop will be, our common limited edition drop will be, and that's Hustle and Show Part 2. What our next rare drop will be. What our next legendary drop will be. We'll provide updates along the way. We know we're going to have a legendary drop at some point in the NBA playoffs. We know we're going to have a common drop at some point in the NBA playoffs. As far as kind of feature roadmaps go, we provide those updates as soon as we get them. But I think for us, we are building a collectible game around Top Shot, and I think it's understandable that there's community kind of disappointment in how the account valuations are proceeding. But I think you can also look at the data and find a lot of evidence that there are certain sets that are more comfortable and safe, and then there are certain sets that are a little riskier. So I think, like, for us, our learnings from Series 2 will help us make a better product in Series 3 and so forth. But we also know that how would I put it? I think we've done a lot of really good things with drops. I think Throwdowns, maybe we missed the mark on a few different kind of components of it. We will learn from those kind of decisions we made, and we will improve as a result. But I also am cautious about us being too reactionary and overreacting to the degree where we try to change everything too drastically. Because I do think that if you look at the course of drops, Throwdowns was more of an outlier than the norm as far as community sentiment around the drop.
So do we and this is kind of, I guess I'll give you a leading question. The community wants to know, if we have plans to help the market rebound in terms of prices. And I think that, one way to do that, or one way that we currently have been doing a little bit of that, is through issuing things like challenges and the showcase quest, which we'll get to in a little bit in more detail. But do we, have any other ways? Because one of the things that people have noted as I've been watching Discord chat and also on Twitter is that, it seems like the people who got in early have, kind of a corner on the market for the more desirable moments. So on our end, how are we helping those players who have come in at the later stages as well?
Yeah. So there are a few things that we're looking at that we think will help the community greatly. And I'm really excited to share that we are talking about a week or less until collectors are going, or I guess I would let me be more conservative and say within the next 2 weeks, I anticipate collectors who have not yet been KYC'd or gone through their identity check will have the ability to opt in to get their identity checked. When it comes to some other things that we're looking at, we rolled out this week, if you have gone through your identity check, your cooldowns will be bypassed on the 1 minute. Sorry, I just have to respond to a more urgent message, and I'll be right back here. 1 second. Okay, sorry, team. Yeah, so we are looking at the ability to opt in, and if you do opt into your KYC identity check, then you'll have the ability to bypass cooldowns. We think that removing cooldowns for collectors will help kind of with the marketplace significantly, as a lot of collectors like buying without feeling impeded by the friction of cooldowns. We're also looking at the data, and overwhelming majority of sets have not been really negatively impacted in recent days or weeks. There are a few sets, and that, as we touched on before, I think that base set Series 2 and rares in Series 2 as a result of Throwdowns have all felt residual impact of Throwdowns being released to maybe under enthusiastic response from the community. So I think that that's playing a role in this, but I think that's super short term. As for kind of ways that we are thinking about building up kind of newer collectors' journeys long term, we've talked about it before. I'll repeat again. We look at Top Chat as kind of like a video game. And in order to get to the boss levels of the video game, in our case, legendary drops, rare drops, you need to do a little bit of grinding to get there. And we're not suggesting that that journey will take super long time to be able to get into those types of drops. But we want collectors to be able to grind their way to, premier access to better things. When it comes to just general ideas on that level, like I think we can kind of take a page out of what Fortnite has done, where they released new seasons within a Fortnite year. So for us, we can look at that as a way to ensure that the most successful whales in our community aren't always just kind of incentivized to ride their coattails of success from earlier, but there's another kind of motivation for everyone to grind on a consistent basis. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at on all of those fronts. I think we'll see a lot more ideas fleshed out by our team in not too long, but for today, I think those are kind of some ideas we can share here.
All right. And So in other more technical marketplace situations, the serial number explorer, which is a pretty important marketplace tool, is having some issues that people have noticed. So do we have any insight, Jacob, on fixes for that or the delays as moments are getting listed?
Yeah, I can't speak to the delays as moments are getting listed, but what I can speak to is our team is doing a lot around marketplace searchability. One thing definitively on a roadmap after the success of Showcase Quest, or early success of Showcase Quest this week, is being able to search the marketplace by position type and by play type. You can already search by position type. Sorry, I meant to say by play type. So you'll have more of an opportunity to be looking and finding the exact moment that fits the quest you're pursuing. I can't speak to the serial number search. I know that that's a known issue for our team, and we're looking into how we can solve that quickly. But I think there are other things coming on as far as marketplace searchability, in particular to accommodate the new collector experience. So making it easier to find moments that we might recommend to you based on how you identify as a fan in your onboarding.
All right. So speaking of fans and onboarding, let's move on to the special events and collab section of the office hours agenda. Because we had that FanDuel promotion, and that was pretty awesome. People were really excited about that. Like, even if, maybe they didn't do very well in the contest, it was a nice integration where they had fun and were able to participate. So do we have any insight into other marketing plans in the near future or say during postseason?
Yeah, we've talked about for a while that, we are not in marketing mode and we need to scale out our team. I'm really excited to share that this week we've added 3 real superstars to our marketing team. 2 coming from the NFL, 1 coming from the MLB. All 3 of them are brilliant and great additions to the team. So we'll have more capacity to start doing more marketing. I think you'll see things in the playoffs. I think new collectors coming to Top Shot is a huge part of the experience, and a way to kind of reassure the community here that we're just getting started. I watched a video on Twitter yesterday of a Top Shot collector at the Charlotte Hornets game last night, just interviewing fans in the arena of whether they had heard of Top Shot, and they hadn't. And I think, we're so in the thick of kind of the day-to-day of NBA Top Shot here that we have to reframe our kind of thinking. We have about 500,000 moment-owning collectors on Top Shot, but there are literally hundreds of millions of NBA fans around the world, if not billions. And there's a lot more people that have not heard of Top Shot at all than people that have joined Top Shot already. And then, in the middle, there are probably people that have heard about Top Shot here or there, but haven't taken the time to look into it. So I think, we're finally in a position where things like the ability to opt into your KYC and getting incentivized to do so, those things will help us long-term, because we won't have to be as worried about bots and multi-accounters totally abusing the system. And I also think there's a really strong argument to be made that the fact that base set packs are no longer a supremely positive expected value also is good for the Top Shot ecosystem, because we've always wanted common moments to be accessible to all collectors. But secondarily, we're now in a position because of it where we don't have to really worry about multi-accounters creating dozens or hundreds or thousands of accounts to get eligible, because there's no kind of fundamental profitability to doing that.
So another, I guess, progressions that have happened about packs and selling. eBay just announced that they're going to start selling NFTs on their platform. And I think that ties into, people getting packs, getting in kind of, that market integration. Do we have news about whether Top Shot will be partnering with eBay to help eliminate outside sales for some of those, perhaps more avoiding those nefarious actors and keeping everything on the up and up?
I think it's on the table, but I don't think we have. We don't have anything to share there. It's not on my purview whether we've been actively discussing kind of what that could look like. I imagine there will be a discussion at some point, but I don't know kind of where it is, nor will I suggest that it's anytime soon. Nor inevitable, right? I don't know if we're going to partner with them.
All right. So not sure about eBay, but in other special events, things that just closed recently, we had the showcase the showcase challenge close earlier this week, and all of the packs were sent out. And that was posted in the announcements channel so people can see, who made the top 50, the top 10, the top 3, which the top 3 were chosen by a judging cohort within Dapper. That wasn't explicitly simply the top 3. But can we get a little bit more insight, Jacob, as to why that challenge reward was changed? Because initially it was advertised as being early adopters packs, and then it turned out that Holo Icon packs were distributed instead.
Yeah. So this was a miscommunication internally. It turned out we did not have 50 early adopters packs to go around. In the terms of service of the contest, we promised that in the event where we did not have enough packs to go around, we would replace it with a pack of equal or higher value. And legendary packs were the only packs that we had to offer that explicitly were a higher value pack. So that was the reason. Now, of course, we will learn from that and ensure that we have the right inventory before we start putting those into kind of prizings. But that's kind of the context there. To the collectors that finished in the top 50 most liked showcases, congratulations. Well-earned pack, and we're happy for you. And for other collectors that are upset that had they known, they would have done more. I don't think that should be the takeaway necessarily. I think either you're earnestly trying to get one of the final prizes or you are trying to participate for the fun of the contest. But the fact that another member of the community got a big win shouldn't feel like your loss. And that's kind of how I would put it.
All right. So thank you for that clarification. And I would say that the ability or necessity of changing the prizing, as you noted, was laid out in the contest or challenge terms and conditions, which is a good segue into the showcase quest that's currently happening. It's a contest. There are also terms and conditions. So before we get into the details of how the quest works, I think the biggest thing that I've seen recently in the Discord has been talk about index cards, and thus, again, kind of the importance of reading terms and conditions for things. Jacob, do you want to talk about these index cards at all?
I don't really, but I will. So we have, we'll be looking with our legal team to figure out ways to create alternative situations now that the cat is out of the bag. For all of our showcase contests to date, we have had this kind of fine print of being able to submit an index card to get your participation benefit. So in this case, $20. As far as kind of long term, now that the community has circulated that kind of fine print asterisk, we will try to come up with another solution. But basically, it's legalese that I'm not super privy to, but talked to our lawyers and they suggested this as a solution. It has been 4 or 5 or 6 different showcase contests to date, and it was only on the quest that the cat got out of the bag. But we will look into it. Again, to collectors that feel like they were deceived or duped because they spent money in the marketplace when they could have submitted an index card. We make our terms of service very accessible. It's right there on the blog. If you are so inclined to get into the fine print, at times there are kind of workarounds for it. But again, I can't. Any instance in which a collector in the community has a win doesn't necessitate you having a loss as a collector.
But it is important, and I would say, reading terms and conditions for literally anything you're involved in is important to understand what you're signing up for, participating in, looking for those potential other alternative advantages. That being said and out of the way, let's discuss the showcase quest itself, because now that we're moving past the specifics of the terms of service, we have a lot of questions from the community about the requirements of the quest. So some players seem to be categorized outside of their expected position. How is that determined for the player? How does NBA Top Shot categorize the player positions? And then how can people validate that what they're putting in their showcase quest is valid for the expectations?
Yeah, so the community has built a tool that I can't speak to how well it performs, but you can kind of check your showcase eligibility with that tool. But otherwise, what I would recommend is you collect the moments required from the quest. You can use the marketplace filters to search by position. If you're unclear about a certain player, you can go to the specific moment and see what position they're identified by in the moment itself. But again, this was like a very rough draft of what we anticipate quests to be long term. So it was inevitable that there were going to be things that weren't perfect about it, and we will take learnings and improve it. Our goal is to make quests a feature long term because it's clearly liked by the community and it has value.
And as Luke has just linked in the chat, there's a momentnerd.com/showcase website that you can use to help validate your showcase to make sure that you're meeting those requirements. And the community had also wondered, Jacob, and I know I've seen this quite a bit, are having multiple of the same moment with different serial numbers. Is that an option to complete this quest successfully? Could I have 3 of the same seeing stars moment, as long as obviously there are 3 in total?
Yes. So just to get into the semantics, Candy, there are no 2 moments that are the exact same, of course. You can have 3 of the same play if they're different serial numbers of the same play, that's okay. We just don't want to explicitly encourage that because that makes for a less interesting showcase. But yeah, absolutely, you can use the same play as long as they're different serial numbers and as long as your showcase has 9 moments that meet the requirements.
All right, and so I think that should cover most of the questions that we've got. about the showcase quest. Make sure that you're getting your quest completed if you are so inclined, or checking the terms of service for alternate completion methods and using the resources that have been created by the community. We have a blog as well for answering your questions. So good luck on your quest. Last category of the day, we'll be moving on to this miscellaneous catch-all category, wrap up office hours. And the first question in here is about the idea of getting a roadmap, not just for the marketplace, which was mentioned in the April State of the Office blog, or the State of Top Shop blog, but also having a roadmap or a detailed monthly calendar to help with transparency and communication. So like when moments might be getting minted, even though minting doesn't necessarily mean anything because they could be minted well in advance of being released. But, it'd be good for the community to have an idea of, when things are happening, perhaps when snapshots are happening, when pack drops, kind of a little bit more in advance.
Yeah, I think for us, we will be looking at a way to provide a roadmap around content releases, increasingly so. So we've already said over the course of this office hours, you can safely anticipate that the next drop we'll do is Hustle and Show. Afterward, we'll do a Holo Icon drop. We'll do a premium pack drop. So there's all of that. And hold on, I'm getting a ping with some potentially good news. Let me check and see. Bear with me here. Community, we have some good news. We have
Tell us the good news.
Some breaking news. All collectors on NBA Top Shot can start their process for KYC at any point in their collector journey. So that's being rolled out today, I'm being told. If you have not yet been able to go through your identity check, you'll be able to starting very soon if you don't have the access already. As far as wire transfers, collectors in Canada and the UK can now withdraw to their banks. That is effective today as well. And one that I think a lot of collectors have been asking for a while is you'll now be able to export your activity history to a CSV. And that will be rolled out to collectors kind of gradually as we test it. So there we go. 3 big updates for the community today.
Oh, well, you got a little bit ahead of me, Jacob, because I had questions about Canadian and UK bank withdrawals. And now you've just answered it preemptively. But yay for celebrating, because having the ability to do KYC and thus get everybody started in that process will be good. And as you noted earlier, those who successfully complete KYC also then qualify for having no marketplace cooldown during the 110 marketplace settings. So that's important.
What I'll say to just to kind of go back to the previous topic and not to muddle the kind of positive sentiment I'm sure our community feels around those 3 big updates. But I see a comment about asking for our roadmap in writing. I think the reality is, like, we had a plan to release Holo Icon yesterday in our original planning, and we are being, I would say more times than not, we adjust kind of the original roadmap due to a variety of factors. In this week's case, the fact that we had a rare drop on Monday, that further gave us credence to let's move back Holo Icon. And then we, as of 2 days ago, that was going to be on Thursday of next week. And then kind of looking at the schedule, we decided, no, we should push it back again. So the reason we don't want to put our kind of content calendar in writing is because these things change regularly, and putting anything in writing builds up an unfair expectation that it will be binded to the date we say or are tentatively planning. So I hope that makes sense. I think there's more harm than good that comes from pushing Holo Icon 3 times in 3 days, as we have internally, without publicly announcing when it will be dropped. And, all of that is a product of us trying to be kind of current and on top of the NBA calendar, but also just making sure that we're in good shape to not be insensitive to community dynamics and sentiment.
It really is stressful for the community to announce a drop and then have to keep pushing it, because people do. We know that you adjust your schedules based on when a drop is happening, whether that's, staying up late or perhaps, taking some time off work. So announcing something and then having it get pushed is a big inconvenience that we recognize, and it doesn't seem very responsible to, keep pushing those if there's not that full certainty. So there's a bit of a struggle, I'm sure you understand, in releasing a calendar that is super dynamic at times, but is something that, long-term goals, being able to get something out that will serve as at least, kind of a wayfinding document would be helpful.
Cool. We've got 2 more minutes, and I'd love to kind of discuss any other last questions. Maybe we can, Candy, are there any other questions on the agenda? Because, needless to say, I'm itching to talk about some hoops.
The hoops thing. Tell us all about the exciting things that have been going on in the world of hoops.
Yeah, super excited about playing games next week. We are planning to do a playoff show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have NBA players on. We're going to have celebrities on. We're going to have influencers on. We're looking at doing it twice a week through the playoffs. Schedule again subject to change, but right now we're looking at Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're talking to some amazing athletes and super excited about that. And stay tuned. Next week, I also want to give a quick plug. Next Tuesday, we are going to be shifting away from doing office hours twice a week, because what we find is that the questions do get quite repetitive from Tuesday to Friday. So we're going to keep our Friday slot. But as a community, you should also know that we're thinking about maybe streaming office hours on Twitch or YouTube Live or elsewhere going forward.
All of the above.
All of the above. And we're also going to introduce or reintroduce, because we did NBA hours once, but next Tuesday, Austin from our content team and I will be doing an NBA hours, just talking hoops, talking about the NBA playoffs. If you're an NBA fan, it's going to be a fun discussion. I'll be talking about some wonky ideas I have about how the NBA could build even more excitement around playing games, about playoffs, who we like in the playoffs. My pick for NBA champion right now is probably the same as most of yours, and that's the Brooklyn Nets. And Lakers fans, don't at me. We'll be excited to have that discussion on Tuesday about why. And yes, let's go Knicks, very much so. I was looking at the calendar today. It looks like the Knicks are probably going to end up with the 6th seed, just because of the dynamics of who Miami and Atlanta get to play in the last 2 games of the season against who we get to play. But yeah, community, really appreciate you all coming out and taking some time out of your Friday. Great questions as always. And yeah, looking forward to a lot of really exciting stuff coming very soon.
I'm excited about exciting stuff, that's for sure. It's good to have a bright outlook on the horizon.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.